We are live, Chair.
Thank you. All right, everyone, welcome to our meeting today. Thank you very much for your time and participation. This is the 10th meeting, I believe, of our cycle. And we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Georgia, if you all could call the roll so we can see if we have enough folks to do our business.
Yes, thank you, Chair. John Arascata.
Here.
Michelle Bays. Here. Dr. Shara Bradley.
Here.
Suzanne Crawford. Christopher DeRico. James Zarenda.
I'm sitting in for Director Zarenda.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Excuse me, Aaron Evans.
Present.
Evelyn Grosnick.
Present.
Christopher Hicks. Mark Jackson.
Here.
Troy Jordan.
Present.
Franklin Katchke. Dr. Jennifer Lanterman.
Present.
Joshua Martinez.
Present.
John McCormick.
Present.
Julia Murray.
Present.
John Ponder. Erica Susie Yamas.
Present.
Judge B.D. Yeager. Assemblywoman Considine. She did tell us, Chair, that she would be a little late.
Perfect. Thank you.
Assemblyman Hibbets.
Here.
Senator Scheibel. Present. Senator Krasner. Vice Chair Brady. I see you. All right. And Chair Herndon.
Present. And thank you. Was Christine here or no?
She
there
is
she is.
here.
Okay. I
She
see
waved
you
at
now.
us.
I'm present. My mouse was being funny. Thank you. Sorry.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And welcome to everybody who may be joining us through the YouTube channel. We're going to open our first period of public comment right now, which is agenda item number 2. There'll be 2 periods of public comment, one right now and then one at the end. For the members of the public, you have 2 options. Obviously, joining us, as you may have done today, allows you to have a moment for public comment at the beginning or end of our meeting. But you can also offer us comment in writing by emailing the Department of Sentencing Policy. And that email address is capital S Sentencing, capital P Policy, all put together as one word, at N as in Nevada, D as in Department, S P at nv.gov, G-O-V. Again, sentencing policy at ndsp.nv.gov. And again, if you put anything in writing and send it to us by email, that'll get distributed to all of the commission members. If you wish to testify by telephone, due to time constraints, we limit that public comment to 2 minutes per person. So please don't be offended if we kind of gently remind you if we move past that 2 minutes that we need to go ahead and close your session of public comment. And just a reminder, keep your phones muted until we tell you that you're live to come on and speak to us so we don't get a bunch of echo from folks' phones, if you would. And at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Jones if she can go ahead and facilitate public comment for us if we have any.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the public who would like to testify by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. When it's your turn to speak, press *6 to unmute. Then please slowly state and spell your first and last name. And it looks like we have no one who would like to participate in public comment.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you, Hunter. And we'll go ahead and close our first period of public comment and move on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of our minutes. We have copies of the minutes from the last meeting on July 19th, 2024. Was there anybody that had any edits that they needed to offer to the minutes? Yeah, Mark?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to just say that the Department of Sentencing Policy does an incredible job with these minutes. I just noticed there was a couple of typos, and I thought we might as well correct those. On page 15, a little bit below the mid of the page where you see motion passes, roll call conducted by Director Powers. It has Chair Herndon, Director Powers, and then DA Hicks. When he addressed Chair Herndon, the name is misspelled there. And then the next two where it shows Chair Herndon speaking, those are also the same misspelling. And then on page 22, up near the top of the page where Senator Krasner seconded the motion.
I'm sorry, did you say page 22?
22.
Okay.
Where Senator Krasner seconds the motion, the word seconds. The substantive part of it is all right on. So again, thanks to the Department of Sentencing Policy.
Okay. All right, we'll make those corrections. Did anybody else have any comments or edits to offer to the minutes? I don't see or hear anybody else. Do we have a motion to pass our minutes from the last meeting?
John McCormick for the record. I move that we adopt the minutes with the changes DA Jackson pointed out.
Thank you, John. Any second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Senator Krasner. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, we will pass the minutes as amended by DA Jackson. All right, we're going to move on to our agenda item number 4, which is our report from Director Powers. So Director Powers, I'm going to give you the floor, the screen, whatever it may be. I think you're muted, Georgia.
Sorry.
You were going great though.
I was doing great. Yeah, the first part, all I said was that I did notice that Senator Krasner arrived and I wanted her to know that I marked her present.
Oh, thank you.
All right. All right. So I'm going to keep this a little brief this morning. I know we had a long meeting. I'm going to give you updates on the department and our activities. With administrative, I was going to mention that our lease is up in April for our building that we are now in. So we are looking to see about moving to state-owned buildings or if we will stay here. So I will keep you updated. As far as budget, our budget was submitted by the deadline and now we are just waiting for the process. I did put in for more travel for commissioners. As I start talking about the NAS conference, you all know that I have told you about the NAS conference each year. I would really like for commissioners to be able to attend. So I did put in for us to be able to help more. We are also looking at grant funding for that to send approximately 3 to 10 people each year. So just keep that in mind. And for that, I'm going to jump to outreach and talk about the NAS conference. The NAS conference this year was held in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was able to go. Deputy Director Bonacorsi was there. Aaron Evans, Major Evans was there also. And they have both kindly volunteered to speak about that. So I'm going to actually give the floor to Major Evans right now to talk about his experience at the conference.
Thanks, Director Powers. Yeah, the conference was great. I've attended the last two, the one that Nevada Sentencing Policy hosted back last year up in South Lake, and then this year in Raleigh. It's always good to get in a big room with your contemporaries from around the country that are working and studying on the same issues that we're facing here. the level of researchers that attend these, that put on presentations, decades of working in criminal justice and studying it, really eye-opening, gives a lot of opportunity for discussion, and just kind of realizing that we're not alone. In Nevada, we have our own problems, but no state out there has it perfect, and everybody's just kind of working towards it. There's also a few breakout sessions that I attended that were really valuable, I thought. And one that I was going to highlight just briefly was from the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. And they covered their, I think, like a 7-year process from defelonizing personal amounts of controlled substances to decriminalizing, to now they are actually recriminalizing some of these controlled substances. And they went through the process of, how it passed and how it was supposed to work, and then how it ultimately failed when they decriminalized, and the thoughts of how much diversion to treatment they were going to do. And now they're, trying to figure out a way to kind of recriminalize that a little bit. And it was very eye-opening. We face similar drug trends as Oregon, being here on the West Coast. And, I was able to spend some time with them afterwards and kind of just talk about some of the same issues. And they're talking, diversion and deflection, which isn't necessarily something that we have a lot of here, but, I'm sure it's work in that direction. But it's just nice to, to be able to meet with other people going through the same type of things. And I would encourage anybody that is available to attend the next one to come, because I think it's worthwhile.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Major Evans? Okay, Director Powers?
All right. Thank you very much, Major Evans. And Deputy Director Bonacorsi, did you want to speak?
Sure, thank you. Just to essentially echo what Major Evans shared, it's always great to be able to be in the same room there's a lot of commission members who attended, but also a lot of people on the department side from other departments who support their commission who attended. And so getting to hear both perspectives is always great. There are 2 parts that I greatly enjoyed. Was one, they do an all states update. So every state that is present shares a quick 5-minute rundown of what is going on in their state, what things that they have accomplished in the last year, challenges that they are facing. And so it's a really awesome way to just get a picture of what's going on nationally with similar departments and commissions to ours. But also, I attended a breakout on sentencing data legacy applications, and that was very eye-opening. A lot of states have similar challenges that we're facing here in Nevada with data. And so we heard from Maryland, the District of Columbia, Virginia, and Pennsylvania, and they are all on legacy systems that, similar to what we've had to do in Nevada, have been altered and tailored towards their state to make it work for them. And so just being able to be in a room of people discussing the same data systems, the pros and cons of using a legacy system. Some of them were developed internally, some of them were developed through outside vendors coming in, but there are systems that some of these departments have been using for 20 years and some a little bit more recent. I believe it was Virginia is using AI in their systems now. And so it was a really eye-opening conversation to hear what's going on in other states in terms of their data, how they're storing and processing, if they have statewide system where everybody's on a unified system, or some of them had individual systems for different departments and divisions. And so it was interesting getting to hear what is going on with data in criminal justice around the country.
Thank you, Ms. Bonacorsi. Anybody have any questions or comments for Jen? No? All right, thank you. Director Powers?
I was just going to mention a couple of the plenary sessions that we attended. One of them talked about the value of long service on commissions. I'm very happy that our commission has long-serving members, and many have been around for iterations of this commission prior. So that is very beneficial for us. The other was, we all know that there is a struggle with filling our inmate advocacy position. So there are many states, and we had representatives of justice-involved people who are on their commissions. So not just an advocate, but actual justice-involved individuals. And so that was very interesting and eye-opening. So I just want to encourage everybody, when next year comes around, it's always the first or second week of August. And as soon as I have information, I put it out to you so that we can have more people come and experience this. So let me reshare. All right, so on to data and reports. We are now working to secure funds to start the new database that the data section has ready to start and has been working with OCIO on a state level. We did put it into our fiscal year 26-27 budget, but we would like to start as soon as possible. So we're working on that. The data section has also been working to analyze data and trends, so that they could complete mini reports, two of which you will hear today, the aging and the NRS 178.750 report involving murder and involuntary manslaughter. Voluntary manslaughter, I apologize. And then as far as commission, we submitted the projected amount of costs avoided, a report that you approved, and that is the department report today. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments for the director? No? All right, Director Powers, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, we'll close agenda item number 4 and move on to agenda item number 5, which are cost avoided discussion. Our next charge, let's see here. Well, we have there were 2 things provided in your packet, and I know the director will chat about those with you. So let me turn it back over to Director Powers.
Thank you, Chair. Georgia Powers for the record. Yes, so you will see 2 separate documents, the statement of costs avoided for December of 2024 and a supplemental report to the statement of costs avoided for December 2024. As I was putting the report together and looking at everything that the commissioners had spoken about during the projected costs avoided report, I decided to break them up. Looking at the statute, the statement of costs avoided says, tell us how much we avoided using these data points. And so we have our statement of costs avoided. Then I took all of the other points and put them into a supplemental report. So we can look at these separately and then discuss them and vote on approval and changes separately, if that's fine with you, Chair. Okay, so I will share my screen and we'll start with a statement of costs avoided. Okay, so the statement of costs avoided discusses the statutory requirement that we have gone over many times. Basically, before December 1st of each fiscal year, the statement will be written and submitted. In the summary section, we have seen this block before about what are costs avoided. It's money that may have been expended, and it is projected. Using the formula adopted in May 2024, employing the statutorily required data points, the Nevada Sentencing Commission calculated that Nevada has avoided $18,158,559 due to the enactment of AB 236 since the last statement of costs avoided. As reported in the August 2024 projected amount of costs avoided report, Nevada is projected to avoid another $36,775,055 during the 2025 to 2027 biennium. This can be reinvested in programs and treatment that will reduce recidivism. I will go off on tangent here. This report does not require recommendations as the projected amount of cost avoided report does. So we just said that they can be reinvested. The August 2024 projected amount of cost avoided report can be used as reference and includes background information and details of the recommendations from the Commission for Reinvestment. And it tells where people can find it. It gives the methodology that we talked about for the projected amount of costs avoided that was voted on by the Commission, using the 2 data points that we have discussed, and gives a breakdown of how we got to the $18,158,559. This section is more breakdown of how the formula was derived and how it was used. And that is the end of the report. Again, statutorily, we are only asked to take those 2 data points and write the statement of what was avoided. So I will leave it to you to discuss.
All right. Anybody have any comments or topics they want to discuss with regard to that first report that Director Powers just provided us with? Or just discussed with us, rather. It's been provided previously.
Chair Herndon.
Sure.
It would be easier just to, if we could go through the second report, and can we just combine the discussion? It's only one agenda item.
Yeah, that's fine. Georgia, is that okay? Can you go ahead and go through the second one, then we'll bring it all back to one big discussion?
Yes, absolutely. I will pull up the second now. All right. You are seeing the supplemental now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. And as I discussed, as I went through this and I was trying to write one report, it just wasn't making sense. I wanted to make sure that I talked about everything that the commissioners that were important to each commissioner. I tried to include everything, and this is just for us to discuss. So again, statutory requirement, what the report itself, or both reports, the projected and the statement of costs avoided, are statutorily mandated to do and to include. Talks about how we updated the methodology, the development of the formula. Again, this is taken from the statement itself. And then we start. So there have been discussions within the commission meetings regarding the Department of Corrections budget increasing even as the population has decreased. Studies show there is little to no correlation between states that spend the most per capita for incarceration and the states with more offenders per capita. Most variations in state corrections spending ultimately represent the corrections policies, budgetary factors, and policy decisions important to those individual states. And then we go into findings and considerations. The 2017 JFA report used to craft AB 236 projected a marked increase in the NDOC population, forecasting an NDOC population of 16,206 by fiscal year 26. The numerous factors, including AB 236, COVID-19, and the fact that the NDOC population had begun a slow decrease prior to any of these influences, make it impossible to attribute all cost avoidance to any one source. This chart shows you the JFA projections versus actuals. The entire membership agrees that there are difficulties in calculating avoided costs overall, but specifically regarding the enactment of AB 236, as costs avoided are funds that an entity would have expended in the future. This is a projection. In the case of AB 236, costs avoided refer to spending that may be unnecessary because of a decrease in prison population after AB 236 was enacted. However, due to the varied costs associated with housing offenders in an NDOC facility, the costs avoided are not tangible or measurable funds, and as they represent potential future savings. Many scenarios can change the NDOC budget and population in any given year. Examples are inflation, global pandemic, statute and policy change, capital improvement need, salary increases, and societal issues. Next bullet, in the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policies December 2021 Fiscal Impacts of Sentencing and Corrections in Nevada, it is noted that legislative findings related to the establishment of the Nevada Sentencing Commission include the following. Sentencing and corrections policies should be resource sensitive as those policies may impact costs, inmate populations, and public safety. Criminal justice agencies should strive to effectively measure costs and benefits. Next bullet, the Nevada Sentencing Commission is tasked with making data-driven policy recommendations. The Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy was created to collect and analyze Nevada criminal justice data. One of the biggest issues the department faces is a lack of data. The statutory requirements regarding calculated costs avoided due to AB 236 are exclusively Department of Corrections data points, which is the majority of usable data to which NDSP currently has access. To be able to create a longitudinal approach to analyzing criminal justice practices and policy in Nevada, the department would need data from local level law enforcement, judicial entities, alternative sentencing, and post-conviction data that is currently not available. Prison population and prison spending are only one small piece of the Nevada criminal justice array. Next bullet. One impetus behind AB 236 was to use state resources to house the most serious and violent offenders. The charts below display changes to the proportion of the total population by felony category and offense group between 2017 and 2023. Next bullet, a point mentioned frequently during recent NSC meeting discussions within the scope of costs avoided have been societal costs. It has been noted that there has been a rise in property crime in Nevada while the prison population has decreased. A counterpoint was, can this be proven to be a causal result of AB 236? The conclusion is that more data would be needed to begin to pinpoint possible causes of increased or decreased crime. And these are the Nevada crime rates for violent crime and property. Recommendations. The Nevada Sentencing Commission has been following the mandate set forth in statute regarding developing a formula and reporting costs avoided by the state due to the enactment of AB 236. With time and experience, the Commission's recommendations today include asking the legislature to allow the Commission to research and revamp the required data points for consideration of costs avoided calculation related to AB 236, 2019, and requesting help to obtain consistent data from a wider range of Nevada criminal justice agencies. The current data points being used are only from NDOC. It must be assumed that as the changes brought about by AB 236 modified sentencing thresholds and outcomes, certain felony categories were adjusted to lower felony categories and others that were felonies prior to the enactment of this law were modified to misdemeanors or gross misdemeanors. Also, some offenses that remained felonies now allow for mandatory probation. This means that some of the costs may not have been avoided, but may have been relocated to the Division of Parole and Probation, alternative sentencing departments, and local jurisdictions' jails. If the charge of the Commission is to calculate costs avoided by the state, determining if, and if so, to where and to what extent, costs may be being transferred to other agencies is necessary. And that's that. So I'll go back up to the top and allow you to discuss. Thank you.
All right. Mark, did you want to start? Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you very much. I want to start off by thanking Executive Director Powers and all of our staff at the Nevada Sentencing Commission. As everyone knows, when we attempted to do this, or when we did this last year in 2023, I brought up a lot of issues and points, and it led to a very lengthy meeting. And the same thing happened as we prepared for the projected costs avoided report at our July 19th meeting. I really believe that the Department of Sentencing Policy threaded the needle on this, took into account the comments by John McCormick at our last meeting about doing exactly this. I think that those were shared by Ms. Grosnick as well as Mr. Arascata. We could go and Assemblywoman Considine, and instead of keep trying to add bullet points and get involved in those types of discussions, I think what this captures, a supplemental report, is really the frustrations, not just of me, but other members of this commission, about us wanting to do the right thing, and we just have not had the tools available to do it because the data does not exist. So with that, I'm not offering any recommended changes to either the report the statement of costs avoided report or the supplemental report, and I'm going to be in favor of moving both of these forward as presented.
Okay. Anybody? Thank you, Mark. Anybody else have any questions or comments about either of the two reports? I can't see everybody right now because the screen is still shared, Director Powers. So just speak up. Thank you.
Vice Chair Brady has her hand up.
Okay.
I think very well done. I do like how it's written, and it actually tees up a conversation that we ought to be having with each other, and that is that challenging these issues, be it from sentencing lengths to alternative, to incarceration, to deflection and diversion, all of these things require the kind of discussions that we have in this group across the board, from local, state, entities, judicial entities, the whole gambit. And it kind of tees it up because it talks about, yes, we're saving money, for NDOC, but where are the costs going? And ultimately, I think where we may need to get is at some point talk about how do we all share in the costs. So I kind of like it for that reason, that it tees it up, that this is a shared responsibility for all of us throughout Nevada.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm looking for little hands on the screen. I don't see any. All right. Look, I will share what DA Jackson said. I thank Director Powers that you've done a wonderful job. And I don't think that, well, first off, I think that the cost avoided report, you're right, is exactly what we're asked to do. But I don't think you can view that in a vacuum without understanding both the positive parts of it and the limitations of what it represents, which gives the legislature a lot of insight into the things that we all have been thinking about and discussing internally for them to consider as they move forward, trying to figure out, hey, what has AB 236 done? What are the positive things that have come from that? What are the limitations on what we can really read from that? And what can we do moving forward to maybe continue to address these issues? So thank you. I appreciate you and your staff putting both of these together. And if I can go back, Mark, did I interpret your comment as you would be willing to make a motion to approve both of these reports as is?
Yes, Mark Jackson, I make a motion to approve the Statement of Costs Avoided Report, December 2024, as well as the Nevada Sentencing Commission Supplemental Report to the December 2024 Statement of Costs Avoided as presented.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody willing to second that?
Second.
Thank you, Senator Crafton. Any further discussion on the motion? Don't see or hear any. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, the motion will pass unanimously, Director Powers, and we approve both of your reports as provided today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, so we will close agenda item number 5, our cost avoided discussion, and move on to agenda item number 6, which is our misdemeanor subcommittee update. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. McCormick. John, how are you today?
I'm all right. Thank you, Chair. For the record, John McCormick, we had a misdemeanor subcommittee meeting earlier this week. Unfortunately, we didn't have a quorum. However, at that meeting, we did, the group that was there reach consensus that where we want to go with the misdemeanor subcommittee at this point is coming up with a recommended reclassification system for misdemeanors, i.e., multiple levels. We don't know exactly how we're going to do that. So we've appointed a working group to begin working on that framework, so then we can interface with all of the stakeholders as far as the severity of misdemeanors and how we begin to try to wrap our heads around reclassifying all of those, and then move on and make recommendations for misdemeanors to the legislature to potentially repeal or revise. So looking at getting the first working group meeting for the reclassification group going here in a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for John in regard to the misdemeanor subcommittee? No? All right, thank you. I appreciate it, John. We'll go ahead and close agenda item number 6 and move on to agenda item number 7, which is our NLJRCC update that references Assembly Bill 388. And we're going to turn it over to Marie Bledsoe for an update on that.
Thank you, Chair. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen here.
We had it for a second. There it is.
There it is. Okay, can everybody see that?
We can. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good morning. I'm Marie Bledsoe. I'm a management analyst with the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy, and I'll be walking the Sentencing Commission through the Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Grant Award process for 2024. The Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Grant through the Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Coordinating Council was authorized through Assembly Bill 388, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager in the 2023 legislative session. These $3 million in grant funds are for reentry and recidivism at the county and local levels. And in this presentation, the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy will be focusing on an overview of the grants awarded in rounds 1 through 6, a look at the funding distribution across all counties in the state. Then we will take a deeper dive into what was actually funded. Finally, we will look at next steps in the grant process. And I did want to mention that we made a couple minor changes to this PowerPoint presentation after it was emailed out. So the updated document is on the website, but if you have the original, you might see a few little changes as we go. For example, next steps was added here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So here's a quick look at the timeline and chronology for the NLJR grant application process. The award period originally opened in March 15th of 2024 and was supposed to close April 12th. In that period, the Department of Sentencing Policy had received 5 grant applications totaling just under $450,000 in state funding requests. This dollar amount was well short of the $3 million that was available. So the Department of Sentencing Policy, or NDSP, then created 5 more grant rounds and reopened the grant application period. So grant applications were received in 2-week intervals through June 21st, 2024. So this chart shows the number of applications that were received by round, with a total of 20 applications received in all. 2 applications were rejected, one in round 3 and one in round 5, primarily because the principals who submitted these grant applications lacked experience with our target population. That target population, again, is people in reentry from prison or jail, as well as individuals at risk of recidivism at the local level. So we had 18 applications that moved on to our peer review committees. Now, these committees were separate and independent and were primarily made up of members from the Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Coordinating Council. But it also included professionals like an undersheriff from a rural county and a classification and planning specialist from the Department of Corrections. These committees were formed and completed application reviews in rounds 1, 4, 5, and 6. Now, the reason no peer review committees were formed in rounds 2 and round 3 were because no grant applications were received in round 2, and there was only 1 application to be reviewed from round 3, so we moved it on to round 4, which is why you'll see in round 4, 3 applications were received, but 4 applications were reviewed. So each peer review committee had time to independently review and score each application for their assigned round. Each committee met to discuss each application and their scores. And as a group, these committees selected the applications to be funded and decided the levels of funding for each grant. So we'll now look a little closer at each round of funding. So rounds 1 and 2 ran from March 15th through April 26th. 5 applications were received in round 1, and as mentioned, no applications were received in round 2. The peer review committee, or PRC, chose 3 applications for funding from round 1. Those applications were in Douglas, Lyon, and Humboldt counties. The column titled Awarded Dollar is the state amount awarded plus any required match. The state dollar column is the amount taken from the $3 million that was available. Then in the case of 2 governmental entities here, there was a required 30% match. In this round, Lyon and Humboldt counties both contributed in-kind matches. So the state amount awarded was $341,797. The total match amount for this round was $81,455 for a total of $423,252 in benefits to these counties. Rounds 3 and 4 were from April 26th through May 24th. In round 3, we had those 2 applications that were received, with 1 application moving on to the peer review committee. That round 3 application was from the Nevada Outreach Training Organization, which provides victim services in Nye and Esmeralda counties. There were funds identified in the NLJR grant for victim services, and this application received a portion of those funds. The round 4 peer review committee had 4 applications to review, and they chose all 4 for funding. 3 of the applications selected were nonprofits, and 1 was a governmental entity. The total amount awarded was $309,804. The match amount was just over $43,000 from Clark County, for a total amount of almost $353,000 in benefits to Nye and Esmeralda, Mineral, Clark, and Story counties. Now, I would like to mention that the $43,000 match amount from the city of Las Vegas was a cash match, which is very rare in the world of grants. So this cash match was an unexpected and extra benefit to this population in Clark County. Round 5 ran from May 25th through June 7th of 2024. 4 applications were received, with 1 application not moving on to the peer review committee. So of the 3 applications that were received, 1 was selected for funding. This grant award was $81,986 in state funds and $26,832 in match, for a total award of over $108,000 in benefits to Carson City. Finally, June 8th through June 21st was round 6. 6 applications were received and all moved on to the peer review committee. The PRC selected 3 applications for funding. 2 grantees were nonprofits and 1 was a governmental entity. In this round, the remaining $2,266,413 was awarded, along with over $136,000 in in-kind matching funds, for a total award of just over $2.4 million in benefits to Clark and Washoe counties. If you have the original slide deck that was for this presentation, I just wanted to note here that the City of Las Vegas and the Nonprofit Foundation for an Independent Tomorrow have changed positions on this slide. So total together, the grant funding distribution for the Nevada Local Justice Reinvestment Grant looks like this. 7 rural counties received 21% of the funds, or $632,837 in state funds. Washoe County received 26%, or just over $782,000, and Clark County received 53% of the available funds, or $1.5 million. I do want to mention that NDSP received over $9 million in state funding requests. Clearly, the peer review committees had to drastically cut over 6 million to get to the requested received down to the 3 million that was available. So their work was invaluable in this process, and we can't thank them enough for their work. So this slide ends our broad overview. In this next section, we're going to do a summary with a deeper dive into what was actually funded. And I want to note that there are two sides to any grant award. There's the fiscal side, which is what we are covering here today. And then there is the programmatic side. For example, how many people will be assisted. So we can cover the programmatic side of all the grants in future meetings. So on the fiscal side, two categories received the largest amount of funding. First, there was the personnel category at $1,111,987. This category is to compensate staff at many of the 11 organizations receiving state grant funds. The second biggest category was contractual and consultants at $1,747,933. So then in descending order, the remaining categories were indirect costs, receiving $62,000 in funding, supplies and operating got $41,460, travel got around $26,000, and staff training at $10,255. So just like peeling an onion, let's go one level deeper. And here is an even closer look at the personnel section, which totaled over 1.1 million. The good news here is that the largest portion of the personnel funding, over $398,000, is for community health workers, therapists, counselors, and case managers. An additionally large amount of funding, $286,800, was for peer recovery support specialists. When these two line items are combined and the associated taxes and fringe benefits are included, these services come to $805,196, which is 72% of the personnel and fringe funding category. These staff members are providing direct services to our target population. I also want to point out $10,430 is for victim advocates, and the remaining $204,505 covers other staffing needs at these organizations. Our second biggest category was the contractual and consultants category. In this category, we've broken it down into two sections. The top or light gray portion is additional funding for personnel, with the darker gray or bottom portion is direct services to our target population. And in here, there's more good news. In the top portion, an additional $155,000 is for more counselors and therapists, with an additional $99,840 for peer recovery support specialists. These two line items make up the bulk of this top section, and when combined, this comes to $255,446, leaving around $42,000 for the remaining light items, which include executive directors, suicide prevention training, and personnel for technical assistance and program evaluation. Now, when we take the $805,000 from the personnel section on the previous slide and combine it with this $255,000 total for direct services, we get $1,060,642. This means that 1/3 of the total $3 million is going toward personnel providing mental health, case management, and peer support services to our target population at the local level. Now to the bottom portion. The top three lines here represent services like local pharmacies, staff who provide transportation for clients to get to appointments, plus clothing, birth certificates, phone cards, and additional identification cards for their population and reentry. At the bottom of this bottom section, there is $146,750 toward mental health housing for folks needing acute attention through mental health courts, $120,965 for housing assistance, mostly in the form of rent, and $139,800 for supportive services like childcare. Finally, $1,018,279 is going to directly pay for training and tuition for people in reentry or as a diversion from recidivism. The remaining sections of our deep dive we'll just touch briefly. The travel section and the other section categories are for staff at the funded organizations. Here we have 8 staff members attending conferences and trainings out of state. The grant funds are paying for their travel and registration expenses at those events. Grant funds are also being used for in-state travel, so staff at these organizations can meet with clients who may be in crisis at their homes. Under supplies and operating, we had grantees request assistance with mental health screening supplies, along with drug testing supplies. Organizations also requested to purchase everything from toilet paper to new computers, office supplies, and filing cabinets. That all came to $30,504 across 11 organizations for a total in this category of $41,460. Our final deep dive category is indirect costs. 5 of our nonprofit grant recipients included indirect costs with their applications. So these costs are generally a percentage of their operating expenses, and this category came to $62,305, or just 2% of the available funds. So that concludes the deeper dive into what the NLJR grant dollars funded. And so let's take a peek at next steps. For the grant recipients, each month, these grantees must submit a reimbursement request for the awarded grant funds. These reimbursement requests include all expenses for the prior month. When each request is received, it is reviewed by 2 members of the NDSP staff before moving on to the Administrative Services Division, where the requests are reviewed again and then paid. Each recipient must also submit a quarterly narrative report for programmatic reporting. NDSP is planning on-site compliance checks with grant recipients in the coming months, which means NDSP staff will go to recipient organizations to tour their facilities and learn more about their programs. NDSP is also offering all recipients technical assistance as needed. The recipients must spend all awarded funds by June 30th of 2025. The NDSP is also has required reporting for this grant, which includes 2 reports to the Interim Finance Committee. The first report is due December 20th, 2024, and must include all expenditures through December 1st. A final report is then due by September 19th, 2025, and it will contain all expenses through the deadline of June 30th, 2025. Finally, the Department of Sentencing Policy will continue to keep the Sentencing Commission updated on what is happening with this grant between now and September 2025. And Chair, that concludes this presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Bledsoe. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the report Ms. Bledsoe has provided to us today?
Chair, may I say something?
Sure.
I just wanted to point out that the Coordinating Council was created in the 2019 session underneath the commission to do this work, to analyze and discover needs at the local and county level, and to administer grant money, which did not come about until last ledge session. So we waited 4 years for this money. Everything that we have seen in these applications and the organizations we've been able to grant money to, they are doing great work in their communities. And then secondly, I wanted to give a real shout out to Marie. Marie joined our department in February. She's been here approximately 7 months. And she has just taken this grant and run with it, because once we got the money, we needed to be able to get it out the door. So I just wanted to really give her our thanks.
So you joined in February and somebody said, here's a few $1 million, go spend it, right? What a great job that is.
No complaints.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you again. That was a terrific report. I appreciate it. Anybody else have questions or comments for Ms. Bledsoe? No? All right, Marie, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that's going to close our discussion in agenda item number 7, and we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is our data report with the aging population study as well as the NRS 178-750 discussion. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Bonacorsi.
Thank you, Chair. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly with you all. All right, for the record, my name is Jenna Bonacorsi. I'm the Deputy Director for the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy. I'm going to turn off that subtitles. I don't know why it keeps showing up. There we go. Sorry about that. Good morning, Commission. Today we are going to be concluding our series of presentations on the Nevada Department of Corrections aging population, which is defined to be offenders house inside NDOC who are 55 years and older. We are going to be looking at the number of offenses on an offender's entire booking, and as well as their offense group and categories associated with those offenses. And we're going to look at the top offenses that offenders are serving as of April 2024. And there were some questions about the prior criminal history, so we have some statistics to share with you all for that as well. So jumping right in. Before we begin this next section, I want to review a couple of terms. So first is what an NDOC booking means in the context of this presentation. A booking encompasses any convictions at the time of and subsequent to an offender entering NDOC custody. An offender could begin their booking with one or more judgments of convictions and potentially could add JOCs to their booking once it has already begun. One way this could happen is if an offender is still pending sentencing from one or more charges when they enter NDOC custody. If they are convicted, these sentences join the original booking and may add time to an offender's original booking maximum. Another way is if an offender is paroled to the community but receives new charges. These charges join the original booking and may similarly add time. As of April 2024, the Department of Corrections had 1,683 offenders in their aging population. As we have mentioned previously, we have received a new data set from NDOC that gives us every offense an offender is serving. Historically, we have only been able to look at one offense per offender, either their most serious offense or their most serious active offense for our analysis. An offense is essentially a criminal conviction as stated on their JOC or JOCs. This could be one or more offenses, with each having unique sentence terms such as felony category, offense group, and sentence lengths. Depending on whether the convictions were adjudged to run concurrently or consecutively, each offense in the booking could have different statuses. Possible statuses are active, discharged, paroled, pending, among others. An offender's booking does not expire until all charges are discharged. The reason we have been so excited to receive this data set is because it allows us to be much more precise in our analysis of types of crime, sentence length, and enhancement usage, and other data points to give a more well-rounded view of sentencing trends and usage of prison resources. Among the 1,683 offenders, there were 6,680 offenses total. As of April 2024, 31% of the aging offenders had only one offense on their booking and 29% had two offenses. The highest number of offenses on one booking for the aging population was an offender with 117 offenses. Out of the total 6,680 offenses, 35% were sex offenses and 36% were violent offenses. Property offenses accounted for 9%, drug for 3%, DUI for 2%, and other category for 15%. 74% of offenders had all the offenses on their booking in the same offense group. This does include the 530 offenders with only one offense on their booking. 21% have offenses in two different groups, 4% in 3 different groups, and only 1% have offenses spread between up to 4 different groups. There were no offenders with offenses in all 6 offense groups. For felony category, 52% of all offenses are category A offenses and 39% are category B offenses, meaning 92% of all offenses being served by the aging population as of April 2024 were category A or B offenses. Category C only represented 4%, D 4%, and E 1%. 67% of offenders had all of the offenses on their booking in the same felony category. Similarly, this does include the 503 with only 1 offense, or 530, excuse me, with only 1 offense. 28% have offenses in 2 different categories, 4% in 3 different categories, and 1% between 4 felony categories. Similarly, no offender had offenses in all 5 categories. The top 15 offenses on the bookings of the aging population in April of 2024 represents 70% of all offenses. The other category that we have listed here, which is that large dark blue section, represents over 100 unique offenses, totaling up to 30% of offenses being served. Often, some of these offenses were only 1 instance in the population. Sexual assault of a victim under 16 years old represents 12% of the offenses being served by the aging population. 11% were use of deadly weapon enhancements, followed by 9% being lewdness with minors. For the aging population's number of prior jail incarcerations, 42% had 0, 14% had 1, and 43% had 2 or more. For the number of prior terms of probation, 71% had no prior terms of probation, 17 had 1, and 12% had 2 or more. For the number of prior terms of prison incarcerations, 17% had none, 37% had 1, and 46% had 2 or more. We created this chart while answering a research question posed to us by a corresponding department in another state. We found it quite interesting and wanted to share it. The admissions broken down by generation show an interesting trend. We will examine these generation trends further as they closely relate to the aging population review we've just completed and the upcoming youthful offender study. With that, in our presentations to come, as we have discussed, we will begin our youthful offenders study, which is offenders to 24 years and younger. It'll be very similar to what we have completed here for the aging population. We have also been asked to look into the female population, as well as do a study on the habitual offenders. The habitual offender study will be case file reviews, as well as a felony murder study. We want to use some of the information that we presented with you all today about the aging population in terms of their offenses and do a total population all offense analysis. Flashing back to Georgia's presentation on the supplemental cost avoided report. If you guys saw all of the pie charts on that, that is using the same data set. So it was looking at all of the offenses for offenders in the NDOC population. And we also, of course, are gearing up for 2025 legislative support. I hope you all have enjoyed this deep dive into the aging population over the last few presentations. Our department is currently working to compile all of the presentations we have done. I think this was our 4th or 5th. And we'll compile them all into one report, which will be available on our website for your review. I want to thank you guys for such an engaging discussion on this project and for my team and all the work that they have put in. With that being said, does the commission have any questions on the data presented here today?
Anybody? Well, here, I'll tell you one quick comment. It's the first time I've ever seen boomers, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X referred to in our prison population. But I love that. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jenna about the aging report? I do not see any hands. Okay, thank you, Ms. Bonacorsi. All right, we're going to close agenda item number 8.
Sorry,
Oh,
I have one more presentation. I was just getting.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. I'm sorry. 178,750. Please go ahead. My apologies.
You're all good. almost have it ready to share. All right, now you should see the presentation on reported data for 2023 NRS
Yes.
178.750. Today we're going to be covering what exactly is NRS 178.750. We're going to be discussing county size and murders reported, as well as defendant and homicide victim demographics, the number of notice of intent to seek the death penalty, and along with the final case disposition for the data reported. Before we begin, I do want to make one small disclaimer. The page you are currently looking at was not on the original PowerPoint presentation we posted and sent out to the commission last week. I had intended to include a slide in this presentation with the actual NRS on it, but did not make the final version. We have corrected a few formatting errors as well, but none of the underlying data has been altered. We have posted this most recent version of the presentation on our website. This report represents an analysis on reported murder and voluntary manslaughter cases in Nevada during 2023, as required by Nevada Revised Statute 178.750. The data explores various aspects of these certain homicides, including county characteristics, defendant and victim demographics, and case dispositions. This report identifies trends and highlights the need for improvement in data collection and reporting to ensure more comprehensive and accurate analysis in the future, as mandated by NRS 178.750. The history of Assembly Bill 13, the history begins with Assembly Bill 13 from 2023, was introduced to eliminate a panel of judges in certain penalty hearings in which death penalty was sought, and also required district attorneys and district courts to report specified information concerning homicides to the Supreme Court. Legislative hearings show that the impetus for collecting data points regarding these homicides and sentencing was a concern of possible racial bias in sentencing for certain groups and subsequent defendant/victim combinations. A portion of the bill requested these data points be made available to show any trends, as there was a question of whether the data penalty system at that time was prejudiced against certain defendants. Senate Bill 316 from 2023 transferred the task of collecting this data to the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy. Though we received submissions from all 17 counties, this did not occur by the February 1 deadline. One significant challenge in conducting this analysis was the substantial amount of missing data. Many of the requested data points were left blank and some were marked as unknown. Some counties were able to provide information that other counties were not. It was not always clear if the question was left blank due to information being unknown to them or due to failure to complete the form in its entirety. The Clark County District Attorney's Office did state that some of their blank data points were attributed to the limitations caused by their case management system. They are currently in the process of transitioning to a new case management system that should allow for more complete submission. Another challenge faced was the manual effort needed to fill out the report and then convert the submitted PDFs to a usable data analysis format like Excel or CSV. This required the Nevada Department of Sentencing Policy to manually enter each data point into a usable format. The NDSP team is working on improvements to streamline the report template and submission process for all involved. The department hopes that transitioning to an online form will make data submission much simpler and provide for more accurate and cohesive reporting with less blank entries. This process will not allow for an answer to be left blank, as the reporting agencies will have to select not available before being able to move on to the next question. The department is still in development of this new process, and we're working with the district attorney's offices to determine the most workable solutions that benefit all stakeholders. Population size and homicides do not necessarily have a direct correlation. Nevada has great disparity in county size, the largest ranging from just the smallest ranging from just 736 people in Esmeralda to over 3 million in Clark. Clark County reported the highest number of homicides under NRS 170.750 for 2023. However, the per capita homicide rate is lower than that of other counties. Lincoln, Pershing, Nye, and Lyon, for example, each reported higher homicide rates per capita. 8 counties reported no homicides for 2023. As shown, not reported represents a significant category due to the data collection challenges mentioned previously. However, for race, not reported only accounts for 15.27% of defendants. For defendants, 39.41% were reported to be white and 43.35% were reported to be Black or African American. Of the 9 total reported Hispanic or Latino defendants, 7 had their race listed as white, 1 as Black or African American, and 1 as other. Just over 60% of defendants are younger than 35. The less than 25-year-old age group represents 34.48% of the defendants, while the 25 to 34-year-old range represents 26.11%. Defendants in the 55-plus category range from 56 to 86 years old. Most defendants are male and account for 80.30% of the total. There is no reported gender for 11.33% of the defendants. Out of the total 209 victims reported, 163 or 78.95% had no reported race or ethnicity. Of the reported 34 white victims, 5 were Hispanic or Latino. There are 8 total Black or African American victims reported and only 1 American Indian or Alaskan Native reported. There was no listed age for 56.94% of the victims. The smallest age range of victims were between the ages of 45 and 54 years old, representing only 3.35% of the total. There was no listed gender for 77.03% of the reported victims, while 17.72% of the victims were male, 5.74% were female. The overwhelming majority of cases did not result in a notice of intent to seek the death penalty, as 183 out of the 203 cases, or 90.15%, were reported no. A notice of the intent to seek death penalty was filed in only 2 cases reported, 1 in Clark County and the other in Lyon County. All instances that were not reported came from Washoe County. For dispositions, 13.79% of defendants pled guilty. 7.88% are awaiting a jury trial, 3.94% have been found guilty by a jury trial, and 1.97% had their case dismissed. The 5.94% of other dispositions represent instances that did not fit into these categories, i.e., case pending, defendant deemed incompetent, defendant suicide, outstanding warrant, etc. All the reported cases, 66.5% did not list a final case disposition. Of these, 128 are from Clark County, 7 are from Nye County, and the other 15 counties were able to provide a final or pending case disposition. I want to take a moment and thank our NDSP team. We received over 200 reports, and my team was the ones who had to do the manual data transfer for us to be able to have this information for you all today. So thank you, team, for all of your hard work. I also want to take a quick moment and thank our Executive Director, Georgia Powers, for all the work that she has done in the department. While Georgia has been working in the Nevada criminal justice industry for many years and this department for almost 3, Wednesday marked her 1 year as our Executive Director. So thank you, Georgia. I know I speak for many when I say we appreciate all that you do. Thank you, Commission, for your time and the opportunity to present this information to you all. Our department has created a PDF version of this report with the same information presented here. The report is already available on our website, sentencing.nv.gov, under the Hub tab. We look forward to sharing this with you next year and hope to have much more data available next time. With that being said, are there any questions from the Commission?
Thank you, Ms. Bonacorsi. Do we have any questions or comments from anybody for Jen? No? All right. Director Powers, congratulations. I didn't realize it was your 1 year anniversary.
Thank you.
I'm
At this-
sorry, Chair Herndon. I was trying to raise my hand. I think it
Oh,
clicked up right after you.
That's okay. Go ahead, Julia.
Thank you. This is Julia Murray for the record. I don't know that you know the answer to this or not, but what are the consequences for not reporting clearly available data? Like, all of these victims went through an autopsy. Gender should be an answerable question. Death notices go through a process whereby the cases are presented to a committee and there is data collected internally by the counties whenever the notice is filed. I mean, some of these things make no sense that we have no data. Do we have a way to strong arm the data reporting?
I'll jump in here real quickly. When we had struggles having people submit their data by the deadline, we started reaching out. Like, how do we make people follow the law? So that is still under research at this point. We have not found any way to make the people submit their statutorily required data. So if anybody has anything that they can help push people along or give us advisement on that subject, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, I guess I appreciate that as an answer. Intellectually, I have a hard time accepting that as an answer. It seems to me, if we want to be able to make any sense of any of these numbers, and it is a constant conversation when we come up here, what crime rates are and what the crime rate changes mean. And we're looking at a very small crime category. Murder is very specific and relatively small as far as the numbers go. If we can't even get accurate data there, I think maybe we need to explore proposing some sort of a penalty for non-reporting to be added into the statute. Like, it doesn't seem appropriate that we can pick and choose when we want to give the data when there is a mandate in the law to give the data. I apologize for my rant, but I think it's something we need to address.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah, Senator Krasner.
Thank you very much. So on a couple of the slides, it was breaking down the ethnicity of the perpetrator who committed the crime. And it said ethnicity not reported. Who's not reporting it? Is it law enforcement who's not reporting? Or is it the offender who's not reporting what their ethnicity is? Who's not reporting that data, please?
On our end, all I can say is what data we had received. So this data comes directly from the district attorney's offices. And so they are the ones who fill out the report. What information they have available is a different part of the conversation. I know when I talked to Clark County about some of their empty categories, they said the cause was due to their data system for the unanswered questions. But in terms of the data that you are all looking at today, if it's marked not reported, it means that the district attorney's office left that entry blank.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Dr. Bradley has a question.
Dr. Bradley?
Hi, Sheriff Bradley for the record. So I'm maybe it's because we have incomplete data, but I cannot believe that there was only one notice of intent for death penalty in Clark County for an entire calendar year. I just don't think that's possible. But these are for cases that were all filed in 2023, right? That's the
Yes.
okay. Because I'm also looking at the statute, there's other things that should have been reported as well about the jury and things like that. And so those are just all, what does it mean that their data, it's because of their data set? That means they didn't put it into a usable format that could be pulled back out again, or what? I don't know what that means.
So I guess I'll explain a little bit more of the process. So how we received this during the last legislative session. So this was our first year as a department collecting this data. How it has been done in the past is a PDF is sent to the agencies or to the district attorney's offices, and they have to fill out this report for every case filed in that calendar year. And in that report, all of the elements that are outlined in NRS are requested on that report. Then the district attorney's office fills out the report for every case that they had filed for homicide or involuntary manslaughter, or voluntary manslaughter, excuse me, and they send that report back to us. Once we get that report, it is in a PDF format, which is not the most usable way to analyze data. So then our department takes the PDF that they had submitted and transfers all of it into an Excel file so that we are able to create charts and pull together this actual information. The reason that we did not include a lot of that other data is because it was very, very, very sparse. This information, though it is already sparse, was the most information I had to share. There were some entries that no agency had filled out. And so we are working on a way to better to improve that process so that they have to mark, we did not know this information. So there is a level of, we have more information about why they marked it or why they left it blank. They won't be able to move on to the next question without answering it. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all I have right now. We have the data from historical data from the prior group who did the collection for this report, and their data is far more sparse than the information we got. They had some years where major counties never even reported. And, you know, so in terms of the historical information, it's very limited. But even in this 2023, we got a lot more information than has been received historically, but it was still very sparse in what was filled out.
So when they're telling you that that they couldn't provide all the information because of their data systems, do we know what that means?
That was only a conversation that I had with Clark County. I think we had shared with you guys that there was a really large lag in receiving the data from Clark County. So when we had finally received it, there was a lot of blanks in their final case disposition, actually. All 128 reports submitted by Clark County were blank in that category. And being that it's Clark County and they represent a large number of murders for our state, I reached out to them about that question, and the response that I got was it was due to their data system, and that they're hoping with their new system they will be able to provide that. And that in terms of, that's all the information that I have on unnecessarily why. Some of the smaller counties with their blanks, we have not had an opportunity to discuss that with them yet. I'm hoping that as we start this new process, we can establish a better relationship with each of these agencies and be able to really problem shoot why there are so many blanks being filled out. I was not expecting there to be this many blank entries when we originally sent out this report. And so part of this is learning on our department too about how we need to move forward with this report in the future and accurately receive this information in a timely manner in its entirety.
I wonder if so they didn't really tell, we don't really know why that their case, that doesn't really tell us anything. It's very vague, right? But if it just means that they weren't collecting it in any aggregated way or whatever it means. But I would think that the DAs, the ADAs that handled these cases would know the details about their own cases. I would hope or guess. I guess what I'm wondering is, should there be a second pass at getting more of this data instead of waiting for next year? Given that maybe we're asking for the more complete data set as required by the statute, and maybe they're not used to having to turn that in. Okay, so then we get a second pass. They get a second pass at giving us better data, so that we don't have to wait until next February for this year's. Because I didn't look at the changes in the statute, but this statute originally was enacted in 2003. I don't know if it included all of these pieces of data in 2003, but it's been around for a while, and so if they've not really been in the habit of, okay, maybe a little bit of grace is necessary, but yeah. So I guess that would be my main question: is can we give them a second chance to provide some of this in the whatever format you want to collect it in?
Yeah. Georgia Powers for the record. We can look into that, absolutely. But like you said, this has been happening for 21 years now, and there just has always been sparse data. We are hoping to change that. Jenna and her team are already working on an online form so the district attorneys can have it all year long. They can put it in one case at a time, and we will receive it, you know, whenever they're ready to give it all year long. And we hope that that will change. Again, she's going to put it in so that there's no option for a blank answer. We will at least know why it's blank, if nothing else. So, but absolutely, we can look at reaching out to the counties again. I just don't know that anything will change.
D.A. Jackson?
Thank you. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Clark County DA's office, nor am I speaking on behalf of all of the other DAs. I'm not sure what the data issues were in Clark County. I can tell you that I do have knowledge that Clark County, Washoe County, Douglas County, Carson City, Lyon County, and a few other counties used a case management system through what was Journal Technologies. It was, and we were given notice about 2 years ago as to the end of life. And we've migrated to a new data system it's prosecuted by Carpel. The dollar amount that Clark County would have to pay was, I thought, astronomical. I don't know what they've done with that. It has caused issues in Douglas County on migrating from one case management system to another. And again, that happened, I think, for 22 and 23. I will offer this, the DA's Association, we're meeting later this month, and I will bring this issue up at the DA's Association, and we'll reach out to the Department of Sentencing Policy and try to dig down. I do agree with what both with Senator Krasner and with Dr. Murray, it's not Murray, excuse me, but to address Dr. Bradley, and we shouldn't have to wait a year for this information, and I'll try to get the ball moving on the DA side.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And I will say, Douglas County, their one report that they had submitted was very filled out, almost to complete entirety. So thank you, D.A. Jackson, for that too, from your department.
Anybody else have any other questions or concerns? And Mark, I do appreciate if you could talk to your brethren about things. I mean, I don't want to put it on the legislature to Julia's point about trying to create penalties for things outside the criminal realm. Look, people, you know, we see things come into courts and the district courts and end up coming up here on occasion where people are seeking declaratory relief against various governmental agencies for not providing certain things. And so there's mechanisms for that, separate from the legislature having to get involved. But obviously it benefits all of us to have more information accessible. One thing I will say, Dr. Bradley, I had the same thought you did when I looked at the number of 144 homicides in Clark County and only one notice of death filed regarding 2023. That can be difficult sometimes figuring out when it was filed and what year it pertained to, but I did reach out while we were all talking to Judge Jones that administers the homicide team, and she said that there were only 2 death notices that had been filed in 2024, and most of those would be in relation to 2023 homicide cases. So if there is more deliberation and thought going into that and less notices are filed, great. If that number is obviously not accurate that was reported, then that's concerning. We obviously want to get more accurate information. So to the extent, Mark, your conversations can generate people utilizing whatever they can within the new case management system to help us out in that regard, that would be terrific. Dr. Bradley?
Just a quick follow-up to that. Thank you, Chair. Maybe we need to, and maybe this was clarified with the agencies, but of course, the case could have been filed in 2023, but the notice of intent to seek death penalty could have been 2024. So I don't know if we clarify that data point. It would seem like we want that to apply to when the case was filed.
Right.
So
and I will and I apologize for interrupting. For a more bigger context, I believe she said there were 7 death notices filed in 2023. So those would probably be in relation to some 23 and 22 or even older cases, just because sometimes whether there's a delay in investigating a homicide to get it to the point of a court case, or a delay in getting the court case to the district court where the death notices are filed versus being in the justice court or going through a grand jury process. All of those things kind of impact that a little bit. And I interrupted Dr. Bradley. Let her finish up.
No, that was it. Just I think we need to clarify with each agents. We need to clarify what we're collecting. Are we collecting the notice of intent based on when that was filed or when the case was filed? And maybe it was already clarified. That was it.
I will jump in really quick I have a partial answer to your question, Dr. Bradley. In the actual NRS, the third point for it is if all information required pursuant to subsection 1 cannot be provided because a case is still in progress, an additional report must be filed with the Department of Sentencing Policy each time a subsequent report is filed until all the information, to the extent available, has been provided. Historically, if that has been done before our department took over this report, I'm not sure, but in terms of moving forward with cases that are still in progress, as they evolve, our department should be notified as the case moves on. So in terms of if there was a filing in 2024 for a 2023 case, then that is there. There's also they're required to report the offense date and the case number now. That was an addition. I know case number was an addition, I think, in this last legislative session. So we're able to track down to an individual case level and how that evolves. So I think this reporting for this whole report probably needs to be addressed and revamped, and to make sure that we're receiving this updated data. As you know, these cases before they are closed, there's a lot that can happen and change during a calendar year.
All right. Anybody else with comments or concerns?
Julia has her hand up.
Oh, Ms. Murray?
Thank you. Julia Murray for the record. Yeah, I really just wanted to echo what Chair Herndon said about the necessity of a second pass for accuracy here. We internally keep numbers as well at my office. I pulled our 2023 death penalty numbers while we were all talking, and I have 8 case numbers that I could, email to you right now that were all filed. The first being filed on January 25th of 23. The last was a December filing of that year. And those are all 23 case year case numbers. So there's a flaw in the data for sure. And I think a second pass is probably necessary.
Thank you, Julia. Anybody else?
I'm just real quickly, DA Jackson, I know that you have offered, and I think that might help a lot too. If we can you can get together with the department before you go to your meeting and we can talk about, what we need and what the problems might be. I really appreciate your help in this matter.
Okay, with that, we will go ahead, I think. Yes, Jenna, close the agenda item. All right, we're going to close agenda item number 8. Thank you again, Ms. Bonacorsi. We're going to move on to agenda item number 9, which is future meetings. The next meeting we have scheduled right now is November 1st, 2024. Staff's already working on topics for that meeting, obviously, and if anybody has any ideas, please express them now and or reach out to the director and her team about things that you would like to put on for that next meeting date. Is there anybody that has anything right now that they're thinking of that they would like to have on for that meeting? One thing I will say is, Mark, when did you say it was that you're meeting with the DAs?
2 weeks from today.
Okay. All right. So maybe Director Powers, if you guys could get with Mr. Jackson and provide him with some information and maybe some clarity about some things that maybe he can inquire about with the DA's Association members, that might be helpful. And then that might be one thing, Mark, maybe in November, if we can just kind of get an update on where we are on addressing what appears to be some data shortages in terms of the information that we're getting. And that can be provided to Jenna, and maybe she can update us on that in November.
I
Julie?
apologize, Chair. I'm noisy today.
That's okay.
I was wondering if someone from the department could reach out to the Nevada Department of Corrections. They recently reclassified Ely to a medium security prison and High Desert to a maximum security prison, and did a large prisoner transfer and shift, moving around approximately 2,000 inmates. We talked so much about why prison costs have gone up or stayed high, and we talk about all these variables at play. I'd just like to know the numbers on the cost on that. It doesn't necessarily need to be a full presentation, but I think it's something that will become important when we look at prison cost on the 23-24 cycle. It's probably going to spill into 25 as well, but I'd like to know what that transition contributed to some of the numbers we've been looking at.
Okay.
Hey, this is Josh Martinez, just from the Metro standpoint in regards to that question. During the movement, we were part of that movement as well, and our teams here at Metro to make that movement occur. So those are just things, if you're looking at costs and expenses and you're asking the state, I'm not sure if they would know the whole figure or whatever, because there was other agencies involved in that move.
Yes, this is Julia again. I completely appreciate that point. I actually met with the Clark County Detention Center earlier this week, and I know that they also, through Metro, took on a huge cost with it as well. So we may find that that's true, and we might need to reach out to a few agencies.
Maybe Director Powers, if we can get some information on that, and just maybe somebody from the department to give us a little background on why it was done, what's the ultimate goal of that. I mean, I have to assume that there is some wisdom to it, obviously, and maybe there's some saving in future costs if there's people closer to, Clark County, if there's more need to have inmates closer to the court system here or something. I have no idea. But if we could reach out and maybe get somebody to give us a short presentation on that.
Yes, absolutely. We've been meeting with NDOC, and Deputy Director Testuit is online right now, and she and I had talked about future presentations coming up. So if you're willing, I'll reach out to you, Deputy Director, and we'll set something up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, anybody else? Vice Chair.
We may also just kind of along those lines, may want to invite the Department of Indigent Defense to make a presentation. I don't know if this is part of why they're relocating people, but I know that there's a lot of difficulties getting representation attorney representation out in the rural areas of Nevada, especially some of the frontier areas, there's a struggle. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, just in terms of where the resources are located to handle some of these different things.
Right. I can reach out to Executive Director Reba also and see.
Well,
who would like to be
so I don't think Marcy Reba is a director any longer. And I don't know who it would be now. All I know is I was told recently that I don't know that Marcy was let go, removed. I'm not sure what the circumstances of it were, but I just know that it didn't sound like that she was in that position any longer, and I'm not sure who it may be. If anybody else has any information on that, knows who the point of contact.
Chair Herndon, I have the information. It's Julia. The current acting director is Peter Handy, and I will send you his contact information after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do you know, Julia? I mean, is there a plan to get somebody in place with any kind of expediency, or is it just we're going to have?
I don't know anything about future game plan. I just know that Peter reached out to me to let me know that he's doing it for the time being.
Okay, thank you. If you could get that to Georgia, that'd be great.
Chair Herndon, this is Mark Jackson.
Yep.
The Board of Indigent Defense Services had scheduled a meeting. 3 of the items on their agenda for yesterday were pertaining to that, and they canceled the meeting. And I believe that they're trying to reschedule it for the 26th.
Oh, okay.
This month, but there's no new posted agenda yet.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll close agenda item 9 regarding future meetings. We're going to move over to agenda item number 10, our second period of public comment. Let me just first ask, Hunter, is there anybody on the line to provide public comment before I go through my whole spiel?
There is no one on the line.
Okay, and we won't go through our spiel. Thank you very much. So since we have nobody to offer public comment, we will go ahead and close our second period of public prompt comment. And that's agenda item number 10. And then we will just move to agenda item number 11, which is our adjournment. Thank you all very much again for your time today and your participation. I greatly appreciate it. And we will close our meeting, and I will see you all in November. Excuse me. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Georgia?